Hi guys, thank you for joining me today. My name is Megan and today I have my October wrap up for you. So this month was a pretty good reading month for me. I got through 7.5 books this month, which is a lot even for me. So let's get into what I read this month. So the first book I read in October was Before She Ignites. This was the September Owl Crate book of the month. I kind of struggled with this book a little bit, and I think I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Might have been a 3.5, I don't remember, but this was an interesting book, and it's very political, and it's focused on dragons and dragon trafficking, and it's a very interesting novel. It was very politically based though, and it was almost a prison drama as well, but it was good, and I kind of want to see where the rest of the story goes, but I did struggle through this one. The next book that I read this month was Shadow and Bone, the first book in the Krishna trilogy, and I loved this book. Definitely different from Six of Crows, which is one of my absolute favorites, but this was different and kind of eerie, and I don't know, it was just a really good book all around. I loved that there was a lot of political drama and all of this stuff that's kind of minor and background information in Six of Crows, and I really loved seeing where this book went, and I definitely loved this book enough to give it a 5 out of 5 stars. Lee Bardugo is just amazing, and seriously, this is one of the best books that I've read this year, besides Six of Crows, of course. The next book I read in October was Magic Bitter, Magic Sweet, and I do have a book review pending for this one. It'll probably be up in a couple of weeks. I really did like this book, and it is just interesting and magical and whimsical and just a little dark. There was just something about this book that kind of reminded me of a Tim Burton movie almost. It's a really interesting book, and I gave this one a solid 4 out of 4 stars. So, and look at the beautiful cover. I mean, this is about 50% of the reason why I bought this book was because of this beautiful cover. The next book that I read this month was Autumn Thorns. Now this was kind of appropriate. It kind of kicked off this kind of spooky vibe that I had going for a couple weeks for reading. So this is the first book in the Whisper Hollow series, and this was really interesting, and I did really like this book. Considering that Karis, our main character, is a spirit shaman, there were tons of ghosts, and there's graveyards and werewolves and all sorts of magical creatures running through this tiny town. And you know, most books that I've read about tiny towns, they're always super creepy no matter what, and this is super interesting. And Yasmin Gelnorn is definitely one of my favorite paranormal romance authors, and I'm excited to see what happens in the next book. So this was kind of a perfect paranormal romance read for around Halloween, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. So the next book that I read was one that I picked up because I was running low on books. I did mention the first book in this series in my spooky book recommendations, which I will try to link up here somewhere. So this is Death Wish. This is the 5th book in the Lana Harvey Reapers Inc. series, and this is a really cool independently published book series. So again, with the kind of spooky vibe that I had going, this is set in the afterlife. So Lana, the main character, is a Reaper, and she works for the Grim Reaper, and she harvests souls. In this book, I believe the Battle for Eternity, basically the entire afterlife, is starting, and this one I gave a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and this one is definitely worth checking out. So the next book that I read is Sleepy Hollow. So this beautiful copy came in the August Owl Crate with the Hearts We Sold. So this is a collection of short stories by Washington Irving. So I'm not usually a fan of classical literature, and this is just not really up my alley, but I was in a spooky reading mood, so I did read Sleepy Hollow, and you know, it wasn't quite my favorite. And even though I didn't read any of the other stories in this, I'm kind of glad to have it in case I do want to read them. So Sleepy Hollow definitely got a 2.5 out of 5 stars for me though, which is pretty good for classical literature for me, because considering I don't like it most of the time. The next book that I finished this month was Caraval. So this book I bought from Owl Crate, and if you don't know already, Crate has changed their website, and now they offer books that they have featured for sale by themselves. You don't have to buy the box that it came with. So this came with a signed book plate, which I already put in my book, as well as the author letter that came with this, and I believe a piece of art that came with it. So I do love this book, but I struggled in the first third of the book. There were a couple of times where I almost DNF'd this, and I'm kind of glad that I kept reading just to see if things changed, and they did. But I definitely struggled with this book, and I'm just really glad that I kept reading this. So this kind of reminds me of it's got the Night Circus vibe to it, but it also has like this Alice in Wonderland mixed with a tiny dash of Peter Pan and a whole host of other dark fairy tales kind of combined into this really beautifully written story, and I'm really excited to see where this goes in the next book. And this got a 4.5 out of 5 stars from me. And last but not least, I'm going to include this because I'm currently reading this. So this is Wild Beauty. This is from the October Owl Crate, and I'm probably about, I want to say about a quarter of the way into it, and I am enjoying it. It's a little strange, and it's a little whimsical and magical, and I'm really liking how this is going so far, and I will hopefully be done with this by the end of the month. Alright, so that is all the books I've read this month. What have you guys read this month? Let me know down in the comments. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button down below. You can also hit the notification button to get notifications whenever I post a new video. And if you guys would like to follow me on social media, I will leave links down below. Alrighty, bye guys!